Another fun example, and this is kind of stretching the idea of PSI a little bit because it's not really true PSI, but it's showing you the power of today's technology and mastery-based education and programmed instruction. I was really turned on to the stuff that Salman Khan is doing with the Khan Academy in flipping the classroom, and there's the link to his TED Talk that really is inspirational. It was inspirational for me in getting back into this programmed instruction type stuff. And I used Khan's idea, and then I took it to another level. I combined it kind of with some of the Keller stuff and some of the Joseph Pear stuff and those types of things. And I really twisted it around, and I came up with a use case. And I did third and fourth year university courses. So these are, here in the States, that's junior and senior level. So, but typically third and fourth year, so they're just getting ready to graduate. And I took a human learning course and a behavior modification course, and I flipped everything. I did all my lectures online. So I sat here in the office and I recorded dozens and dozens and dozens of lectures. And they go a little quick, as you can tell, but the students can pause it, they can fast forward, they can rewind, they can do all that stuff. Then they had to take an exam, and they had to take the exam online. And they had certain numbers of attempts to take the exam, and depended on the exam, but typically 5. And they had a certain amount of time to complete it. Once they opened the exam, they had a 30-minute period to complete the exam. In other words, I'm going for fluency here. You got to get the right answer, and you got to get it within the right amount of time. And better yet, I required them to master it. They had to master them. 90% or better is what they had to get to pass the exam. They had 5 shots to do it typically, but they had to get 90% to pass it. And then I added another level to it. You can, so there's the lecture, right? And then it's online. You haven't talked to me at all at this point. So what's my point as the teacher? What am I bringing to the table other than this recording a lecture, right? Well, I brought the students into the classroom and I said, now discuss the material. Think about that for a minute. My students read the material. They mastered the material before they were allowed to discuss any of it. So now the classroom became this very rich discussion on application and other questions that were very relevant because they'd actually read and they understood the material. And I did this in 2 different courses, and it has worked like a charm. I required participation points in class, and you couldn't attend if you hadn't mastered that week's material and that type of thing. So students that get behind, they had to catch up in order to get their participation points. And it worked really, really, really well. And it's the old PSI model kind of mixed with the Khan Academy and mixed with this computer-aided instruction stuff. And I just kind of put everything together, kind of just ripped it into a whole new idea and deployed it, and it worked really well. And this fall I'll be rolling this technique out for graduate courses. There's a lot of front-end work. You have to design the test. You have to do all your lectures before you ever start the class, and then you can deliver this stuff. But it's completely self-paced and it's mastery. All right, now the fun stuff. Where are we going with it? Right? Where are we going with this in the future? Context awareness, right? Augmented reality. So let's look at an example. This is taken from a video that was at a recent trade show. Right? So what we've got here is a PlayStation Vita. So we've got a PS Vita. And you can see that it's got it's taking a picture, if you will, of the carpet that's in front of it. In other words, it's aware. It's got a video on the back side of it, or a video camera on the back side of it, so you can see what's going on. And the fun part with augmented reality is you can start to modify the real world on your screen, right? So the carpet that's on there, he's getting a live video of that, and then he modified that by making a hill in it, and he did that just by touching the back side of this little device. And then he made a valley by touching the front side of the device. You can see that on the right there. And then he drops some balls in there, right? Just these little balls, and drops them and see what happens, right? So, and you can see that one ball is stuck on the top of the hill, the others are kind of rolling around, and the video is worth watching. There's a link to it in the reference section. And then now they're rolling down into the valley. So what he did was he took real world, it took the carpet from the real world, dropped these and modified the real world, dropped the balls in it. You can see now how things behave. So how can we implement this? This is stuff that's out there now. What can we do with it with just a little bit of effort? Here's the first one I'm thinking of, physics. All right, we got the right glider. Okay, so your goal as a student, so this is an assignment. So your goal as a student, make that right glider travel 100 feet further than its maiden flight that you see here. Okay? Constraints, you can only modify the wind speed and the slope of the hill. Okay? And your video must demonstrate the distance traveled. Why couldn't you automate this? There's no reason why you couldn't, right? You can get 3D models of the right flyer out there, or the right glider out there. We can take that picture and we could turn it into the virtual reality type stuff that we were looking at, or the augmented reality, and we could have the students change that hill and change the slope and change the wind speeds and those types of things. Once you're done, upload your completed augmented reality video to the LMS, and your instructor can give you feedback. But don't upload it until you've mastered it, right? Until you've actually demonstrated that it's flying 100 feet further than what it did originally. Off you go, right? Now you're selecting for that appropriate skill, and you're teaching them how to modify their world using this little computer. Here's another fun one that uses some pictures that demonstrate how you could do augmented reality. And this is kind of an interview with history. It might be a little sensitive with the topic, but I think it's a good point to make. And so the goal, get Hitler to describe eugenics. Well, how are we going to do that? Let me give you an example. You got this little PlayStation, or this PS Vita thing, or something similar to it, right? And you can see in the photo what they've done is they've superimposed an old picture of Hitler and his group on a current picture taken from the same location, and you can kind of see the current today and then the past and all this stuff, right? Why couldn't you do that with location-aware hardware and software, right? If you're walking around in Paris and you're in this site, all of a sudden, guess what? A little link pops up that says "Play Me." And you play the video and you see that Hitler's here, and it pops up on your little screen, and you can see him sitting there, and there's no reason why you can't get him to say more. So interview him, right? So your constraints, you've got to interview him using proper German, right? You must demonstrate fluency while you're doing that, so the fluency, and you can use Lindsley's fluency measurements, right? And then once you're done with that, right, upload that completed video, right? Upload your interview that you just recorded with Hitler. You just interacted with history, right? Then take it another step further. This is the victory parade. These are the two pictures that are mixed in with the victory parade, right? So on the right, you've got the actual picture from the 1945, and on the left, you've got a picture from today. So go ahead and stop de Gaulle's truck and interview him, right? Why not? Use proper French. And again, use your fluency measurement. And now, all of a sudden, you've got this completely interactive program sort of thing. One more fun one that we can do with this. Look at this picture for just a moment. Right? Take a peek at that thing, because it's not just a picture. There's a painting there too. So this artist took and modified, took a picture and incorporated a 400-year-old painting from Monet in it. Right? So describe Monet's painting in context, right? And discuss the historical developments of Paris. Right? So now you're doing art and history, and you're mixing it together. And how does this all work? Well, the student's walking down this particular street in Paris, and then again the little link pops up and it says, "View me, there's an activity here." Right? This doesn't have to be Paris. It could be any city in any country, and you could tie in the history with it. And then you look at your little thing, and all of a sudden pops up this view of this Monet's artwork, and it superimposes it on the world that you're in right now. So talk about how things have changed in 400 years, and it sure doesn't look like that street's changed all that much. Right? There's a few things that have changed, but not that much. Submission. You could have a live audio discussion. You're on the phone, right? You got your little handheld device. It might be a phone too, right? As Dr. Keats once said, that a phone is just an unimportant application on an otherwise useful device, right? So use your phone and talk with people, and talk with your instructor and maybe the other group. The instructor is going to correct your terminology and or give you factual errors, giving you that immediate feedback. So conclusion, it's all about contingencies. You can manage the contingencies of individuals, of groups. All you need to do is identify the behavior that you want out of your student, identify the properties of that behavior, the magnitude, the frequency, the duration, those types of things. You could even work with verbal behavior like we did with the describing the art history project. Identify what property of that verbal behavior you want. Then give them feedback, and now you're starting that shaping process, right? Selecting for the appropriate response. One more little warning for you here, one last page. The technology is secondary. Right? Don't forget that. Technology is a secondary thing. It's not the primary focus. Flashy is fun, don't get me wrong. It's fun to play with this stuff. But new technology does not mean that you're teaching. Just because you've got some new tool out there, that's great, but it doesn't mean you're actually teaching with it. Okay? Discovery learning, incidental learning, they happen, but that's not teaching. That's just another way that students are learning on their own. A teacher must teach, and teaching means selecting appropriate responses. So don't forget, technology is just a vehicle for delivering contingencies and selecting appropriate behavior. So manage the contingencies. And one last thing. The science isn't complete, but there is enough out there to inform. You can make database decisions in your teaching today.